So for some reason, we are discovering Draenor mobs all over the new zone, Khaz'Algar. And I know, this might seem like such a minor detail here, just Blizzard being lazy and using placeholders from 10 years ago, but when you actually examine the lore, some details and implications, it is actually crazy. The Magnaron we had seen is actually a new model with 2 eyes, and it's not even a Magnaron. However, the Genesaur is called the Verdant Hulk, and apparently recently crashed into Azeroth, as in someone had summoned him. The Genesaur are Draenor demigods of the Evergrowth that once threatened to turn the entire planet into a wild jungle, until the heroic Aggramar, the Titan, came in and created a construct in order to destroy them. Recent Titan lore shows us that the Titans are in fact lying most of the time. All this is happening right next to what appears to be the roots of Elune'ahir, the very first world tree of Azeroth, planted by Elun and destroyed by the Titans, much like how the Evergrowth was destroyed by the Titans on Draenor. As we know, Elun is a cosmological being. Could she be behind the Evergrowth from Draenor, and these are her minions attempting to create a new nature hive mind on Azeroth? Or could this Genesaur be summoned by the Botani that escaped to the Barrens back in BFA and did in fact crash this guy in from Draenor? Let's examine all the lore that we have. If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Gamivo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORON, you can get an even bigger discount, so make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Gamivo. So, I know this might sound like such a minor detail, Doran once again with the crazy theories, making a mountain out of a molehill, but seriously, just hear me out, because when you examine the lore from Draenor, the fact that Aggramar was involved, the right hand of Sargeras, the World Tree roots, which are so obvious in Khaz'Algar, could this seriously be the start of some pretty big new lore, some pretty big setup? So, here is the actual info right off the bat. We had discovered a Genesaur in the Ringing Deep zone in the new cinematic, as well as a Magnaron in the actual alpha. And I know what you may be thinking, I mean, big deal, this is literally early alpha, might as well just be some random placeholder model. I mean, for example, we had Elun'Ahir as a placeholder in the original cinematic for the War Within, and it was a placeholder for this new Dark Race, which got all of us to speculate why is Elun'Ahir in this zone. But there is actually more information on these guys and more recent information. So the Magnaron are not actually Magnaron, they're called Deepwalkers that seem to be native to Azeroth, even though we have never actually seen them in the past. The official description states that this mob is called Orta, the Broken Mountain, that is apparently an ancient being, but has been contaminated by the black blood that the Nerubians are wielding. This description would instantly suggest that this is a placeholder for a big elemental being, but it's actually not. It seems to be a repurposed Magnaron model from Worlds of Draenor, as the Magnaron back in the day had 1 eye, and these guys have 2, and they also have this new mask. If it was intended to be used, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't go to the trouble of the modifications to just make a placeholder they would later replace. However, the real mind twister here is the Genesaur. We had seen him in the closed alpha cinematic that Blizzard officially showed us, which once again got us to believe this is just a placeholder. But then this guy was actually discovered in the alpha, and he's called the Verdant Hulk, and apparently he is a recent arrival because he made a giant crater when he landed into the zone. Now, I know what you may be thinking, a big deal. Blizzard being lazy and repurposing old models from 10 years ago is not exactly something new, but then when you dig into the lore of Draenor and the recent changes to the lore of Azeroth and the recent hints, the dots just kinda connect themselves. So who are the Genesaur and who are the Magnaron? So, in the ancient past, when Draenor was not visited by the Titans, a giant power had ruled over the planet known as the Evergrowth, and it was so powerful that it endangered to consume the entire planet. Even the native elemental spirits were almost consumed by this incredible power. Then Aggramar, the heroic Titan, stepped in to deal with them. Now, with the new lore and a little bit of a spoiler from the alpha, but the Titans are 100% the bad guys. It's not really even a speculation anymore. Try to read the old Chronicle lore through this new lens, as even the Draenor lore is completely biased, and everything we knew from before might just be a complete lie. So Aggramar, in order to apparently save the planet and save the life, didn't want to destroy the Evergrowth himself, as he was too powerful and he could damage the planet, much like how Amantul had damaged Azeroth by personally lipping out Y'Shaarj. So instead, he created a gigantic mountain-sized being called Gron. Then a whole bunch of things happened here, some zone-sized battles of the giants, but eventually these two combatants evolved into various beings. From Gron came the Colossals, from Colossals Magnaron, from these guys the Gron, then the Ogres, and ultimately the Orcs. On the other side, when this collective hive mind called the Evergrowth was destroyed, the Genesaur had sprouted. Keep in mind, the Genesaur are actually more ancient than the Magnaron. They're one step above them, so equal to the Colossals, which you might remember as that giant skeleton from Draenor. Now, the Genesaur, despite us seeing them a few times throughout Worlds of Draenor, are actually incredibly rare beings. So rare that they're in fact considered the demigods of the planet. They're worshipped by lesser beings, more specifically the Botani, that you might know have actually arrived to Azeroth to BFA together with the Mag'har and had mysteriously escaped into the Barrens with nothing happening ever since. So that now leads us to the World Soul Saga, this Verdant Hulk in the Ringing Deeps. Now, to introduce the Azeroth story side of things, let me really quickly bring you up to speed. A few months ago, I made this theory that Khaz'Algar is actually the World 3 Elun'Ahir, and this now seems to be a very likely. As we had gotten into the alpha, we discovered about 10 more hints. Elun'Ahir was introduced back in 10.2 as we had discovered this new book called The Legend of Elun'Ahir. According to the book, the Titan Elun'Ahir and the mysterious life goddess Elune had united together in order to plant a World 3 upon the most corrupted part of Azeroth after the Black Empire was defeated by the Titans in order to heal the world. Thus, the first ever World 3 that we never knew anything about in the past was created on Azeroth, and it was named in the honor of Elune, so obviously Elun'Ahir. This bit of lore here is incredibly interesting. Why the Titans and Elune collaborated, as previous lore told us that Elune is a cosmological deity as well, because we know other planets worship Elune, and Shadowlands told us she's something akin to like a life titan, like how you have the Titan Pantheon as the leaders of the Order or the Naru as the leaders of light. Elune is the leader of the life force. Well, according to the book, Amantul, the main Titan guy, hated this idea. He scolded Elun'Ahir that this is not order, this is an abomination. So the guy just came in, he ripped out the World 3, leaving only roots, and as you would guess, that would obviously leave a massive hole in the ground as well. Over time, mysterious guardians came in and the roots were apparently recovered to a certain extent. Well, here we kinda discovered the missing dots ourselves. I mean, Khaz'Algar was mentioned to be a fissure that the Titans wanted to fix, and obviously it is such a gigantic hole that it is like 4 zones deep. Now, here is the real mind twister. So there are, as we can obviously see from the War Within Alpha now in detail, gigantic roots all over the lowest most layer, and interesting enough, right around the Nerubian Void Kingdom. As I had previously stated, they planted the World 3 upon old god corruption. Interesting enough, we had just discovered a mysterious dark troll race known as the Haronir that are living right around these roots. They're wearing root-like armors, they seem to be very druidic and connected to like roots of a World 3. It is almost certain that they are these mysterious guardians that were mentioned in the book that were safeguarding the roots. Now, that is from the Azeroth side of things, but how exactly do these Genesaur fit into this entire story? Well, that is of course a really interesting mystery at the moment that the entire community is discussing, but what we had discovered apparently is that this being is called the Verdant Hulk. Verdant meaning obviously very green grass, and he had apparently arrived with a bank, as in someone can summon him, because the dialogue states that he left a giant crater as he had arrived. Now imagine this. The Genesaur are essentially the Evergrowth that had almost consumed primordial Draenor. Also, the word consumed is all coming from the very biased Titan perspective. I mean, to them, if a planet is not ordered in their perfect image, it is blasphemy, it is abomination, it needs to be balanced. I mean, who knows what the truth really is and what really happened on primordial Draenor. Seeing that Elune is the Titan of life, as far as we were told, is it possible that she was behind the Evergrowth on primordial Draenor and that it was her mission to fully turn Draenor into a jungle? It would definitely fit with the life nature agenda. I mean, this could be the first time we actually encounter the more fanatical side of the life force, like how we have the normal and the more fanatical side and the crazy light. Is it possible that Aggramar had actually ruined Elune's plans with the Evergrowth by bringing his Titan minions into Draenor, much like how Amantul had ruined Elune's plans by ripping out Elun'Ahir? Now, specifically when it comes to this Genesaur, I kinda see it in two ways. I mean, Elune planted this three, the Elun'Ahir of the Guardians and the ones that are kinda pushing her agenda, could a Genesaur be like a regular life being, like how the Titans have their own beings that they use all over different planets, like constructs and such? I mean, the goal of the Evergrowth was to turn everything into wild nature and to consume the planet through nature. Was this guy summoned by Elun's servants to protect the roots and to defend against the Nerubians? The other theory I could see happening is that this might actually be the Evergrowth from Draenor, and that the Botani from Draenor are literally involved in this entire matter. You might remember back in BFA when the Magnaron had escaped the light-invaded planet of alternate Draenor that was destroyed by Yrel, a bunch of Botani together with these guys had actually escaped and went into the Barrens. Since then, this was one of the biggest plot holes, as you may remember. I mean, these guys are an incredibly invasive species that would definitely make an impact we would see over the years, as remember, there was like a 5-year time skip after the Shadowlands. Could their inherent connection to nature and maybe Elune lead them to discover these roots, and did the Botani actually summon a Genesaur that led him to crash into this place? I know this one is definitely a bit more crazy theory, I don't think it is really all that likely, but I do find it incredibly interesting that the Genesaur crashed into Azeroth, which implies that he was summoned from somewhere above. Now, as the being itself is not specifically named Genesaur, it could be possible that this model might be replaced later on with some type of a Verdant Hulk, but I do feel like we already have this Hulk type nature monsters if they really wanted to add them as a placeholder. Genesaur or not though, I do feel like these roots of elune'ahir in Khaz'Algar will certainly play a role if this really are the roots, and seeing that Elune is a cosmological being that spans multiple planets, I would seriously be surprised that she knew nothing or was not involved with the Evergrowth on Draenor in any way, as that is literally her domain, and by all logic, spreading wild nature and life would really be the ultimate goal of Elune. Thank you for watching. Check out the Light Emperor from the other side of Azeroth by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the cult of Mithras and the Roman mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!